A voice that shakes. It was an unremarkable Tuesday in the small town of Westbrook, a place where gossip and old grudges moved faster than the wind. Mariah, a black woman in her mid-30s, had lived here for nearly 3 years. As the owner of a thriving local art gallery, she had grown accustomed to the stares, the whispers, and the occasional insult that came with being one of the only black residents in this predominantly white town. But Mariah wasn't afraid to stand her ground. She had learned early in life to turn whispers into strength. On this particular day, she was stepping into the Lion's Den, the Westbrook police station. She had a complaint, one that couldn't wait. Her cousin, a teenager who had recently moved to town, was harassed by Officer Clark, a well-known figure in the community who was notorious for his hostility towards black residents. She had heard enough from other people to know something wasn't right. Now, it was time to confront it. The moment Mariah walked through the door, the bustling sound of the station seemed to halt. The officers behind the counter froze, some stiffened in discomfort. Others shifted in their seats. Mariah ignored their furtive glances and headed straight to the desk, where Officer Clark sat, casually flipping through a file. He didn't notice her at first. Mariah cleared her throat. "Excuse me, Officer Clark," she said, her voice clear and calm. Clark looked up, the usual sternness on his face faltering just slightly. His eyes narrowed as if trying to place her. Mariah didn't flinch. "I'm here to file a complaint about an incident involving my cousin," she continued, her tone controlled but firm. "You stopped him outside the park last week for no reason other than the color of his skin." Officer Clark's demeanor shifted immediately. He sat up straighter, his eyes darting to the other officers in the room, as if silently asking for backup. He wasn't expecting this. He wasn't expecting her to speak up. "You must be mistaken," he said, his voice tight, trying to brush off the accusation. "I've never had any issues with anyone in this town." Maria leaned in, her gaze unwavering. "I'm not mistaken, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. I've heard the stories, and now I'm here to make sure you understand that this isn't going to slide. Not this time." Clark shifted uncomfortably in his chair. A few of the other officers exchanged looks, some of them visibly uneasy. But Maria wasn't done. "I'm not just another woman of color you can ignore, or worse, intimidate into silence. I'm here to demand respect, not just for me, but for every black person in this town who's had to endure this. I'm done with the fear you think you instill." At her words, a strange thing happened. Officer Clark, usually the one who held power, seemed to shrink back. His confidence faltered, his hands subtly trembling on the desk. For a brief moment, the weight of Mariah's unwavering conviction seemed to wash over him. The other officers, who had been whispering under their breath, fell quiet. The air in the room grew thick, charged with the power of a truth that was hard to deny. Officer Clark's voice cracked as he stood up slowly, his hands moving to the back of the chair. I don't know what you expect me to do," he muttered, looking around the room, clearly lost for words. "I'm just doing my job." Mariah took a deep breath, her resolve solid as steel. "Your job isn't to intimidate or target people based on their skin color. Your job is to protect and serve all the people in this town." There was a long silence. Finally, Clark looked around at the other officers, each of them avoiding eye contact, unsure of how to respond. But Mariah's presence, her calm yet forceful conviction, had already done its work. The walls of this station, built on years of silence and complicity, were beginning to crack. Mariah turned to leave, but before she did, she paused. "Don't mistake my silence for acceptance," she said, her voice rising just enough to fill the room. "Change is coming. And if you don't want to be left behind, you'd better start listening." As she walked out, the door closing softly behind her, the officers stood motionless, caught between the weight of her words and the realization that things would never be the same again.